contribute to save our world, along with sharing awareness about environmental issues in more depth. But before I move on, I want to remind some of you guys about the etiquettes in this webinar. So please mute your microphones at all times to ensure the convenience of the speakers while they present, so you can avoid any delays or any distractions. And so also be openly active on the chat box. So if you have any questions, just ask in the chat box, like any questions that pop into your mind at any time when the speakers present. So without being so obsessed on the introduction, I'll leave it down to our moderator, Fiza Khan, from here. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Valerie, for the introduction. Nice to virtually meet you all today. I'm Fiza, your moderator for today. Just to add on more to what Valerie said, each session will go on for about 30 minutes or so, with each speaker having 20 minutes to present and a Q&A session for 10 minutes. So without taking more time, we will start on our first session. From all the way out to the island of the gods, we have our very first speaker for today, Gary Bencheghib. Gary's an environmental and water activist and filmmaker. He founded Make a Change World, a media outlet that uncovers uplifting and inspirational stories on a mission to do good. He's also passionate about creating social change through videos and giving a voice to the underrepresented. With his younger brother Sam, he has launched a series of expeditions from running across the US continent to kayaking the world's dirtiest rivers on plastic bottle kayaks. In the past 3 years, Gary's work has been seen by 600 million people. Gary's latest project is Sungai Watch, a project to clean up Bali's waterways. Today, we will be inspired about his amazing journey to battle plastic pollution and his experience kayaking down the most polluted river in the world, while also not forgetting the main topic, which is the plastic pollution situation in Indonesia from Gary's perspective, and how you guys can contribute to the situation. Without taking more time, the stage is yours, Gary.
Thank you, guys. Thank you a lot for having me here at Greenfell. I know that you guys have had a really good day with some amazing speakers. So very grateful to be speaking to you guys from Bali, Indonesia. And it's amazing to see, so many people, 192 on the chat. So super cool. I have a little presentation that I'll just share my screen for a second. Cool. So my brother and I, we grew up on the island of Bali. As many of you know it as the island of the gods, but in recent times, it's really been the island of garbage. With Kuta Beach being entirely filled with plastic pollution, this is the reality that's happening in every rainy season, and we need to do something about it. This is, one of Bali's most touristed beaches, and this is the state of it. So, at 14 and 12 years old, with our sister, who also was 16, we founded Make a Change Bali at the time. And it was a grassroots movement to clean up our beautiful home. Every week we'd go on different beach cleanups in different locations, really not being anybody at the time. It really just pure passion of wanting to see our beaches more clean. So, from Sanur to Kuta to Canggu, every very different beach. But quickly we realized that, this problem was not ending there, and that 80% of plastic pollution in our ocean were actually coming from rivers and streams. So that's what inspired us to really focus on this problem of plastic pollution on rivers and streams. So that was one of the biggest inspiration to starting, our expedition on the Citarum River on 2 plastic bottle kayaks. And so on one summer holiday, coming back from university, we literally Googled the most polluted river in the world, only to find out that it was in Indonesia, on the island next to Bali, the Citarum River. So the Citarum runs, most of you probably have heard of the name by now, but back actually 3 years ago, not many people knew about it. And it runs, through the city of Bandung and goes out right into the Java Sea, just east of Jakarta. 28 million people live along this river, and it's literally, it was the most horrific thing that we've ever witnessed. There was like fires, open dumps burning everywhere. This is a little open dumps burning everywhere. So we produced a video series documenting our journey on social media, and overnight it went viral. This again, we were nobody at the time, just with that intention and pure passion of wanting to make a change, finding a crazy idea and trying to see whether it would work to shake up how people perceived this problem, but especially raising awareness about plastic pollution in our rivers, where we can still control it before it goes out into our ocean. So upon releasing the series on social media, we were so amazed to see the reaction that we got. Overnight, our videos went viral. And 4 months later, after a lot of negotiations with the Kemenko Maritime and different ministries, this is what happened. So this is a little video. Whenever you're ready. So, what do you think about the Citarum? Do you think it's possible for it to be clean again?
Gary, you will see that Citarum River in 7 years will be the cleanest river.
So this was super crazy to get all the way to meeting Bapak Jokowi and to really see, how a small little expedition on 2 plastic bottle kayaks, 2 brothers, trying to make a difference, all the way to actually meeting the president of Indonesia. And so he promised that, he would deploy 7,000 military troops to clean up the Citarum. And this is 2.5 years after this expedition. Indonesia's Citarum Harum program is one of the biggest cleanup in its history. Up until today, there's about 3,000 military troops that are still working in Bandung, in 22 different sectors on the Citarum. So it's amazing to see Indonesia really stepping up, and it's really showed, that putting an army to use to clean up its waterways, it's really a really strong statement. So other governments have actually seen that as an opportunity, from the DR cleaning its beaches with army, and it's actually funny because now, we get invited to all these governmental meetings. Doors have opened, which is amazing for our movement. But one of Indonesia's head generals said that, Indonesia can no longer go to war until its armies have been fully cleaned up. So that's something we call peace and clean, that we live by. But, the Citarum has really inspired us of this concept that no idea is crazy enough to protect our environment. So after that, we literally went to our next expedition down the Mississippi River, this time on a much bigger boat, floating on 800 plastic bottles. The Mississippi River was a very different river than the Citarum. You can't see me in the photo because I'm actually the one taking the photo from another boat. But this time, we went down with 5 friends, and with the goal as well of showing that plastics, make its way from our rivers into the ocean. On the Mississippi, we didn't see as much plastics as on the Citarum. The Mississippi is one of the US's biggest rivers. Over there, it was very murky. And we did some of the first microplastic tests in the upper Mississippi and the lower Mississippi, only to realize that trillions of microplastic particles are going through this river every day through the Gulf of Mexico. And so that was an eye-opening fact. I think when you hear the word trillions, that's like, you can't visualize what that represents. But, it really opened up the discussion that, microplastic particles are running through, every streams out there. That 83% of tap water in the US have microplastic particles in it. There's now studies that show that, we all ingest microplastic particles. So we really need to think differently about, how we're actually taking on our plastic consumption. But that inspired us to also create a visual about how much the average American creates per day. So we collaborated with our friend Rob to do this project, where for a month, he was going to wear every single piece of trash he created for an entire month. So every day he created 1.2 kilos or 2.5 pounds of trash, and he would wear it on his body. And a little bit like Super Size Me, where Morgan Spurlock eats McDonald's every day for a month. Here Rob was doing, with trash. So every day his suit got bigger and bigger and bigger. And this is the visual of what he looked like after a month. This visual, I think, circulated all around the world, which is truly amazing to see how a project with a crazy idea can go crazy viral. For this project, we got more than 250 million views, which is more than the season finale of Breaking Bad. So amazing to see, the power of social media with a crazy, crazy idea. And visuals, I think visuals speak a lot. And, when you see a visual that you can't take away from your head, hopefully, you can change mindsets with that. So the next project, which was our last project, was inspired by Forrest Gump. I don't know how many of you have seen the movie where Tom Hanks plays this character, running across the United States. But this time, my brother actually took on the challenge after graduating from university. He had never run a marathon before and ran from New York all the way to LA, the equivalent of 119 marathons back to back. So every day he would run a marathon, which is insane. Like, I don't even know how that is possible. But he really proved, this idea that youth are crying urgently for governments to take action. This was after the cheetah room in the US. We find it crazy because there's bans to ban single-use plastics, where the petroleum industry is so powerful, and lobbying, that the systems in place that are happening that make it illegal for cities to ban single-use plastics. And so that, again, shows us how far we are from reality, how far, we are from a sustainable planet. And I think that, hopefully through the projects that we take, we want to wake up governments to really take urgent action. So Sam just finished his run on February 1st. He now lives in New York, running our US operations. But this is a little film to show you, just how real this problem really is. This is literally the situation I'm in right now. All this trash everywhere. So this was a little snippet from our film on the cheetah room, which you can go to our YouTube channel to find out more and to see all of our videos, or Instagram and Facebook. But, plastic, like whenever it rains on Bali, and I think that in Indonesia, we haven't really had the first real flush of rains. That's when the trash that accumulates in the dry season on the sides of the rivers, because of the lack of waste management that we have in Indonesia, that's when it all pours down in a massive tsunami, like you saw on the cheetah room. And that's whenever it rains, like in nightmares, I want to be on the river cleaning up or trying to do our best. And so that's what really inspired our next project, Sungai Watch, all about cleaning up Bali's rivers using simple solutions, trash barriers. So from trash blocks to block the water irrigation channels, the subaks, made from stainless steel, where every day we have our crew cleaning up. And so at Davos, at the World Economic Forum earlier this year, we launched this idea that we were going to protect 100 trash barriers around the island. And so right now we're fully in tests. By the end of December, we'll be protecting 17 kilometers of stretch line from the airport, Bandara Ngurah Rai, to Tanah Lot. So setting up 23 trash barriers. So right now, wait, let's get to the next slide. So, and we also have, bigger floating solutions like trash booms. This is, not the long-term solution in reality. This is just disaster relief effort, because the truth is that this plastic that we consume should really not be ending up in our rivers in the first place. So hopefully, by putting these simple solutions, we're really just preventing more from flowing out into the ocean. And as we know in Indonesia, where lack of waste management is truly lacking, hopefully, this can be a reality for people to come and join and support. So here on the island, every Friday, we've made it our day to end the week with a good deed, where we have, 140 people, 100 people Actually, yesterday we had, the government come through. We had about 60 people come through, even in the midst of COVID, which is amazing to see people still very active that want to see change. And this is really just the beginning. So once we collect the trash, obviously, then comes, sorting, because one of the reasons that we started this project in the first place was to try to do our best to collect as much data as possible of what types of plastics are actually in our rivers. Right now, one of the most lacking problem in Indonesia that we're facing is data. We don't have enough data to prove the brands that are producing the plastics, or governments to really put the infrastructures in place. And so this idea that, every river cleanup that we do on a daily basis, we bring it to our research station where we divide the plastics into 12 different categories. And then from then, divide it into brands so that we know exactly who are the most polluting brands out there, but also, try to conversate with some of these brands to show that we need a lot more action than ever before. So, we're super excited to be working with some of these partners all around the world to make this happen. But thank you so much for having me. You guys can, send us an email. I work with my brother and sister, and we'd be super happy to see how we can potentially, scale this idea of trash barriers in other parts of Indonesia as well. So thank you so much, guys.
Thank you, Gary. We will now be moving on to the Q&A session. So you guys can type in your questions for Gary in the chat box, and I'll be reading them out. Just type in your questions in the chat. Okay, so there's a question from Roro, and she or he is asking, why did you choose Indonesia and the Citarum River to focus on?
So I actually grew up in Indonesia. I moved here when I was 8 years old. So it's been 16 years of living in Bali. And the Citarum was really, I think if we're gonna do any expedition, especially a first expedition, we were really thinking about going down the most polluted river in the world. So literally upon Googling most polluted river in the world, the Citarum showed up on top of the searches. And I think that, Java as well is a great place where action needs to be done. So that's really what inspired, us to choose the Citarum.
Okay, so the next question is from Dewi Anggraini. She's asking, when you visit a place where there's a lot of plastic in the river, she's asking if every time you travel somewhere and accidentally see a lot of plastic in the river, what's on your mind? Will you come back to visit to invite residents to clean it?
That's a great question. So here in Bali, we're actually setting up a trash hotline where basically, the truth is that you don't necessarily have the time sometimes if you're driving to actually start cleaning. We all have things to do, but the thing that you can do that's super easy is to take a photo of it and report it. So in Bali, we're actually in Indonesia, we're starting a trash hotline, like a sampah hotline, where you can literally take a photo of it and send it to a WhatsApp number. So if you stay tuned, we're actually going to be launching this in 2 weeks. So anybody in Indonesia can report sampah hotlines. But the idea is that, we can motivate government afterwards or NGOs to come together to clean them up and report, so have a map where everywhere to know where there's the most areas of trash everywhere around the island.
The next question is from Nila Patty. She is asking, what are your top tips for young people to make change in the world?
I think three tips would be, find a crazy idea to tackle. So if you're speaking about plastic pollution, do it in a way that's never been done before. Number two would be all about perseverance. On the cheetah room, we always go back every 2-3 months to make sure that change is happening. Rivers, I've become my lifetime. Every day I'm on a river. So perseverance is key. And then 3 is make sure that you have, a great team and people that believe in the project that surround yourself so you don't burn out, because it's very easy to, especially with plastic pollution, to think that it's too much, to want to try to move away. But, with the team that inspires you, hopefully, keeps you going as much as possible.
Another question from Jasim. He's asking, how long does it take to plan these projects and what important resources you always need to start a project?
So, thank you, Jasim, for the question. Sometimes, it's very spontaneous. You think about an idea and you want to really do it, and it's like the idea that you have deep down in your heart and you know that it's the one, and you just go for it. So for example, the cheetah room literally took us 2 weeks to actually plan before we actually went out with our kayaks and went down. In many ways, we weren't ready for what was to come. Even the toxic chemicals, like we literally bought raincoats thinking that we would be waterproof, with these big boots and gloves. So I think it's all about having that gut feeling in your heart that gets you going.
A question that's very common amongst all the questions is, how do you raise locals' awareness, and how can we make people aware that climate change is going on, and how do we shift their perspective?
I think that, it's like, if you find a way to really speak out to the crowds, we've used social media, for all of our projects. It's really been an amazing tool, like a weapon almost, so whether it's TikTok or Facebook or Instagram, really using that and leveraging that platform, but doing it so in a really cool way, and that speaks to people, that people can resonate to it, always is a great way. So in your local area, I think that, this new generation, unlike any other, is not necessarily pointing the finger at companies. I think that we need to go a level up, engage with those companies that are, the bad guys or governments, and try to approach them with solutions. We're the generation actually that is gonna be here for the next decade. And so we are the ones that should work on solutions more than anything. So do it in a cool way, but try to think about actually how you guys are going to be solving it.
The next question is from Shifa. She's asking, after you collect the trash from the river, then what is the next process? What is done with the trash? Is it recycled or is it just moved to another place?
Yeah, great question, Shifa. So we bring it to our research station where we sort it into this 12 different categories and then work with different partners. So for example, on the island, we have a really cool partnership with Indosol. They're like a conscious brand making really cool flip-flops out of organic rubber and recycled tires. So we give them all our tires and flip-flops. Actually, we find more right foot flip-flops than left foot, which is crazy. I don't know why. For other types of plastics, working with various other partners. So your flexibles, your sachets, plastic bags can actually be recycled with sand to make bricks. So we're in very early stage at the moment, but researching a lot about what can be done. For plastic bottles, we give them to Bali PET. They shred the PET and turn them into yarn, because oftentimes river plastic is a little bit dirtier than your average consumer plastic. For harder plastic, we have a really cool collaboration that we're finalizing with a cool startup on the island called eCollaborate. So every different types of plastics is very well thought out, because the last thing obviously that we want to do is for it to end up in a river or in a landfill. So we really try to make sure that there's a second life for all of the plastics that we're actually collecting.
Another question is for those who are unable to go out and do physical community work due to the pandemic, How can they help out with your projects? Is there a way to contribute to Sungai Watch or to the Citarum project while being at home?
I think that, this, obviously the pandemic has hit all of us. The truth is that we can look at ourselves and do like a plastic audit of all the plastics that we're producing on a daily basis. So literally, going to your fridge, seeing all the plastic wrappers that you have, because, if 1 million people today decided to reduce their plastic consumption, we'd be in such a better state. So really looking at, the plastics that you consume on a daily basis and trying to reduce that. And if you already do that, well, go on social media and share messages that you believe that matter. So, whether it's a petition that you want to get signed, we can still create a lot of momentum in these times. So it's super important that, we try to make sure that we keep on going strong and not let the pandemic slow us down.
Okay, so I think that's all the time we have for the questions. Thank you so much, Gary, for speaking today. We very much appreciate it here at Green Welfare.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me, and wishing you a very, very good day with some other really cool speakers coming up. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. So thank you guys for also making the first Q&A session so lively. I hope that everything was answered thoroughly and that you guys learned something from Gary. We will directly move on to our second session. For our second session, we will have a speaker from one of the zero waste organizations in Indonesia, which you guys can already guess is Zero Waste Indonesia. So I welcome Nila representing Zero Waste today to enlighten us about her zero waste journey. Nila is highly involved in the climate movements, zero waste actions, and education on plastic pollution. She is the embodiment of practice what you preach because she has been living without waste since 2016. As the founder of, sorry, I might butcher this, No Nano Plastic, and head of research and education of Zero Waste Indonesia, she educates, informs, and creates a new trend among Indonesian youth to take climate action from their own home by simple actions. This includes to stop using single plastic. She has also spoken in many lectures, including TEDx Talk. Today, Nila will be talking about the 101s of zero waste, so you guys can know more in depth about zero waste and how to implement it more further. And also to give off facts about zero waste that we may not know about. So I can assure you guys that you will be blown away and inspired by her story. Nila, the stage is yours.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon for everybody. Thank you very much for the moderator, Fiza, for this stage. And I'm really, really excited also with all of the project from Gary, amazing project, of course. So I'm gonna share my screen and then I hope you guys can see it. So yes, we are from Zero Waste Indonesia. I think a lot of you already know what is Zero Waste Indonesia. It's an online platform for zero waste lifestyle. My name is Nila. I'm currently right now living in the Netherlands. I come from Indonesia, but at the moment I'm living in the Netherlands. If you have more questions later on, and if your question later on is not being answered yet, please feel free to go to our Instagram page at zerowaste.id_official, or to my personal Instagram page. As correct, Fiza, it's Nona, no plastic, because I'm half Molux. So Nona means like Missy. And then, today we're gonna talk about not only zero waste, but we're also gonna talk about a step how we can start living zero waste, as what Gary mentioned on the last Q&A session, that we can start from home also to audit our waste. That's also one of the things that we're gonna discuss today. Yes. First of all, what is Zero Waste Indonesia? Zero Waste Indonesia is an online community platform that focusing as a part of a support system for Indonesian people to learn and to try living zero waste. We're focusing on the mindful and sharing awareness on changing of lifestyle And we want to change the perspective of waste, not only as a trash, but as a resource. And we would like to, again, change the lifestyle. We have 3 pillars. Is first, we are focusing on the information. We are focusing on education. We are focusing on collaboration too. So sharing session like this, webinars, is the embodiment of the information, education, and collaboration pillars that we have. We are founded by Maurila Imran in 2018. And for now, we have several projects going on since 2018. The first project is a single-use plastic. So we're campaigning on stopping the usage of the single-use plastic. The second one is called Tukar Baju, means clothes exchange or clothes swapping. And for this year, we have 2 campaigns running. The first one is Habiskan Makananmu. It means finish your food. And the second one is Mulai dari Lemari. It's called, it means like starting from your own closet. We have so many different collaborators, and we're always excited to have more collaborators. So if you're interested to collaborate with us in various ways, please feel free to drop us emails. We also have several different community partners, more than 100 collaborators, and we have several media covers, including TV, news report, blog, and radio so far. So when we're talking about ways, we're always talking about a lifestyle. Currently, our lifestyle and our economy is a linear economy. Means we use it, we produce it, we use it, and then we throw it away. So the best scenario will be going to circular economy, while where zero waste idea is actually, it's actually part of the circular economy framework. So with this framework, you see that nothing is being wasted to the landfill, but everything is being used after production as a resource or being reused all the time. The question that I always get is that, well, if we're gonna do zero waste, why don't we just recycle? I mean, we can just recycle our trash, right? That is end up in the environment. Unfortunately, that is not the case, because among all of the trash, especially plastic waste, only 9% is being recycled. The rest end up in the landfill, in the environment, and even get burned or incinerated. So we cannot really say that recycling is the answer. And a lot of people also ask, but how come it is so difficult to solve this plastic crisis issue? Because waste or plastic waste is a wicked problem. When we're talking about a wicked problem is a problem that require a lot of different complex stakeholders to work on it. When we take a look at the plastic as a wicked problem, plastic is not only a problem also of the environment. So when we're talking about waste, it's not only environmental problem, as if you can see in here in this picture, like fish eating microplastic, the bird also dying with that. Plastic waste or waste in general is also a social issue. So when we see in here that the social economical issue of people who are scavenge the trash from the landfill, they're usually people are not having a lot of economical income, so they have a low income wage, and then sometimes they even risk their life to, for example, in one of this is that even a small thing as a screw for the satay, it's dangerous for people to join, to collect in the landfill. And waste is also a human right issue. The reason why 21st February is nominated as the Indonesia, Hari Bebas Sampah Indonesia is because in 2005 there is landsliding of the landfill, which caused a lot of people actually lose their life. So this is just 3 issues that is correlated to waste. Waste is also a health issue. We've digested plastic or microplastic already in our body because it's end up in the environment, it's end up in our food chain already, and it end up in the table salt that we have. So we already ingest the plastic in our body. However, at the moment, there's not really a lot of study yet that can confirm what is the level, what is the dangerous level of digesting plastic. Because every week we eat around 1 credit card of plastic every week. So I cannot really say whether it is actually really bad, but based on in vivo study, which means that the study that is only isolated certain cell, it is really bad because it can create an endocrine disruption. But it's also as bad as pollution, air pollution. So we need to also try to reduce air pollution, reduce the waste, so we can actually create a healthier life for us. And therefore, we need radical innovation. For example, like the previous speaker have so many different initiatives that is crazy, that is radical. Another thing that you can do at home is living zero waste. So zero waste is a lifestyle where we try to not sending anything to the landfill. Instead, we try to reuse all of our resources in this maximum capacity. But zero waste is not equal to not producing any waste. We just try to use the waste that we created into resources. Zero waste is also an idea to simplify your life, because we need to understand the purpose of things that we bought, of our lifestyle, to distinguish between the need and your desire, and to learn to say it's enough, it's okay, let's not buy excessive stuff. Maybe you have, I don't know, 10 different cutleries with different kind of purposes, but actually you just need one. Then let's get just one of that. The third thing is that zero waste lifestyle idea is how we can synergize with the nature. We are part of the nature. We cannot live without nature. While on the other hand, nature can live without us. So we are really, we are really dependent on the nature. That's why we really need to take care of it, not for the nature, but for us. The last thing is that with zero waste lifestyle, the idea is to go back to our root, to go back to our culture, to our indigenous culture. Indigenous knowledge, especially in Indonesia, always focusing on the balance between nature and human. We forgot about it. We forgot about it sometimes. Of course, the term of zero waste sounds like really Western, but when we take a look of our ancestor, they are the one that actually living zero waste. So this is the idea that we want to push also to you guys. Moreover, zero waste lifestyle is not equal to hating plastic, because without plastic, I wouldn't be able to have a conversation with you all the way from the Netherlands to Indonesia. And plastic is very useful in so many different things, such as packaging, transportation, energy efficiency, sport, medical, and electronic. So now, let's talk about how you can start your own zero waste journey. The first thing is find your goal. Find your grit, something that makes you tick, something that makes you think like, okay, I really would like to do this. Maybe your goal was like, okay, in 1 month, I would like to not using any more single-use bottle, like plastic bottle. And then after that, you go to audit your trash. Check your trash, how much you produce, how much is there. And then the last thing, the third thing is that start with one thing. Don't do everything at once. Focusing on one thing for 1 month, and then check it again for next month. And then implement the 6R. So the 6R is, I add one more. So prevention, there is a prevention there. And then prevention means you try to prevent waste as much as possible. Rethink, when you want to buy something, think about it like 1,000 times. Do you really need it? Do you want to buy it? The second one is refuse, learn to say no thank you. But don't be rude, like try to communicate with people, because sometimes they do things because they don't understand it. So try to make them understand. And I'm sure once they understand, they would like to support you. The third one is to reuse. Try to reuse everything that you have at home as much as possible. When you live zero waste, I don't mean that you have to buy different things. Just use what you already have at home, and then that will be really sufficient for you to start your zero waste journey. The next thing is to reduce. The reducing of the trash is, for example, if you're a girl, you switch to the reusable menstrual pad. If you're a guy, you switch to electric razor or the safety razor instead of the disposable razor. The fifth one is to rot. 60% of our trash is actually organic waste that can be composted, that can be processed later on to create ecoenzyme, for example. So focusing on rot before we go to recycling, because recycling has to be the last resort of things that you do if you really cannot do everything from the first step until the fifth step. And the last thing, make it a conversation with your friends and your family and invite them to join you. The more, the merrier. Now, my question to you will be, what would you like to be? Would you like to be part of the solution or part of the pollution? And this is something that is easily, like you need to think about it because it has to come from you. Zero waste lifestyle is not just a challenge, it's a lifestyle, it's a life's journey. And I'm not saying that you have to change right away today because, sometimes you're like, okay, maybe I should just think about it today and tomorrow I start my crash audit. Because as a marathon runner, you cannot really run 100 kilometers at once. Maybe Gary's brother do like 1 kilometer and then have a break and then 2 kilometers and then have a break and then you continue through hundreds of kilometers that you go to. But you need training. You need to train yourself to get used to it also. Now, lastly, I would like to share my campaign from the Zero Waste Indonesia. The first one is habiskan makananmu to combat food waste. The easiest way is to start from your own plate. When you eat, please finish your food. And if you finish your food, share it with us, tag us in the hashtag, and we would like to share it also with everybody in the social media. The second thing is mulai dari lemari, means that go shopping in your own closet. Stop buying new clothes because textile waste is the second biggest trash that we found also on the beach after the plastic waste. And so instead of buying, you can borrow your clothes, you can rent it, you can swap it, you can make it your own, and you can support sustainable brand that is or local brand that is selling sustainable product. And this is what is very important. Make sure you distinguish between what you need and what is your desire. Like if you really want to buy something but you don't really need it, then don't buy it, because you need to think, what would you do when you're not using the product anymore? Extending your clothing can actually contribute to the reduction of a global carbon emission. So this is a small, simple thing that you can do at home and contribute globally. And if you would like to give it a try, please feel free to go to our website in zerowaste.id and then /mulai dari lemari, and you can fill in our form. You say like, yeah, saya Nila, and then you can fill in the 3 months period that you're interested in, and then you can share your email so we can give you updates on different weeks and what you can do step by step later on. Because all of us are change maker, and all of us are influencer. If we are not influencer in social media, we are influencer of our own sister, our own parents. So our action can start here and can start now, because sustainability starts with you. Normally new means like, let's normalize being sustainable, let's make it trend, and let's make it cool. Thank you very much, everybody. And now I would like to turn it back to the moderator. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Now we have some time for questions and answers. And there's already quite a few questions here, so I'll just start reading. The first one is from Zahra. So it's actually quite an interesting question. She asked how to minimize our waste during this pandemic, where mostly everything is only used once, like a lot of single-use plastics. How can we do that with the smallest amount of waste and be hygienic at the same time?
Yeah, so actually the interesting way is that reusable is one of the most hygienic way, because you touch it yourself. If I want to buy a single-use drinking bottle, the production system will touch it. The clerk in the shop, in the supermarket, will touch the bottle when they put it in the shelf, and then you touch the bottle. But when you have your own reusable bottle, you wash it yourself, you touch it, you refill it yourself. This is the most hygienic way, because this is your own. And there's so many different reusable products that you can use during the pandemic. Reusable masks, reusable cutleries, bring your own cutlery, bring your own lunchbox so you don't share with other people. So actually being sustainable and being zero waste is really healthy, really safe for you during the pandemic.
Okay, thank you. So the next question is from Tia, she's asking, what are the great alternatives to solve microplastics that we may not be aware of because of its reusable label? Just like our clothes, waterproof reusable things like reusable snack bags with polyester material inside, or even menstrual pads.
Yeah. So if you're talking about clothes, there is like this bag that can trap all of the microfibers that usually goes to the wash all the time. So you can use that bag too. When it comes to menstrual pad or reusable product that is made of silicone or plastic, as long as it is reusable in the long term, you can reuse it as much as possible. And when you're done with it, make sure to recycle it or to bring it to bank sampah, so it's actually being recycled. At the moment, the most microplastic actually come from the microplastic that is in your skincare product. If you check your brand of the skincare, sometimes they have polyethylene also for scrubbing also. So change your skincare product is also one of the way for you to reduce the plastic waste there.
So the next question is, how do you recommend people around us to start doing zero waste lifestyle, and how to encourage others to do it? And do you think zero waste lifestyle is possible for everyone?
Yeah. So how to encourage other people? Well, if we're talking about family, usually it's the most difficult one, right? I mean, your parents will be like, you're so young, like you don't know much thing, let's say. Try to listen to them. This is something that I like to say, we have 2 ears and we have 1 mouth. Listen more, and then after that we can say something about it. Maybe they have their own reason. Maybe they said that, yeah, because it's convenient, and then you can actually share like how convenient it is actually to live zero waste. So it's really about conversation. It's really about creating conversation, because there's no one solution, there's no one answer to everything. Everything has to be adjusted to the need. And do you think zero waste lifestyle is possible for everyone? Yes, in principle. The thing is that the people who are actually throwing more trash is the people who are having like higher level of income. People with the lower level of income, they don't have the means to trash. Usually they're trash in this sachet packaging, which then come back to the to Gary's presentation. We need to talk to this producer. We need to ask them to stop, like selling this sachet packaging. When it comes to like people with the middle level of income, or high level income, they're the one that actually create more waste. So it's really highly possible for us to change our lifestyle, to change the reusable, and invest in sustainable product that lasts long instead of just one-time use, such as clothing, for example. That's something that we can do.
The next question is about, how about for the local people who are unaware of zero waste campaign, those who aren't on social media, or just in general people who are difficult to educate? Because adding on to this question, I know a lot of the older generation they don't believe in climate change. So how can we make them believe in it?
Yeah, I think the easiest way is that I come from an island. I come from island, tiny little island on the east part of Indonesia. It doesn't even exist on the map sometimes, So with the people that come from the island, the easiest way is to let them watch, to let them see what is the impact of climate change in their daily life. For example, with the fishermen that is on my island, now they have to go fishing all the way in the middle of the ocean. While in the past, they can just fish nearby the island, because the water is still clear, fishes come back to them. So they see it in a way that, oh yeah, if we clean the beach, if we clean the water area, the fishes will come back. We don't have to travel that long to go fishing. So with saying about, yeah, they don't believe in climate change, maybe it's too big for them to understand, right? So try to go into small little examples. Like for example, with Gary, example with Sungai Watch, you want to clean up the river. Maybe first, if it is raining season, you see like the whole flood of trash over there. And then you have mosquitoes growing there. You can get dengue, you can get malaria, you can get diseases based on that. So it's for your own health. Let's clean it up. And it's so many different solution that we can actually discuss in here. There is no one foolproof, but maybe something that you can say also to your parents that, well, this is something that I got from Orang Rimba, from the jungle people. It's so funny because we always said like jagalah kebersihan, like take care of our earth, take care of our environment. We can read it, we can see it, we understand what it means, but why don't we do it? Well, we are actually being educated to do it. So intrinsic values such as your desire to actually creating clean environment can also being translated into that. So let's try to have a conversation with elderly people. I am sure they have their own reason. Usually is regarding it's convenient. It's convenient to just use single-use plastic. So give them alternative. With my mom, I give her a reusable bag. Every single time she want to go shopping, I said like, Mom, are you going shopping today? Don't forget the reusable bag. And then she will bring it, because sometimes it's just have to get into a habit. Like a workout. If you never work out, if you never do push-ups, if you never go to the gym, it's gonna be very difficult. It's gonna be very hard. When you woke up in the morning, like, oh, I don't want to do this. Why I have to do this? And then, but then after 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, you get used to it. You actually enjoy it. Then you can do something. Then you actually, do it as a habit. So that's something that we can do.
The next question is, what is the difference between living zero waste lifestyle in Indonesia and in the Netherlands?
I think living zero waste lifestyle in Indonesia is a lot easier than in the Netherlands. because we have pasar, we have market where we can go shopping without trash. In here, the market only exists once a week, and the product, if it is like now, autumn to winter product, a lot of them is being imported from different part of the world because we cannot grow it here, it's too cold. And usually it's being packaged in different layers of plastic. So when I go back to Indonesia, I always enjoy so many different kind of food because I can buy it without packaging. The only difficult things in Indonesia is communication, is to get to, to get to people that is like, it's okay, I mean, I don't need the bag. And then the seller will say like, it's okay, it's for free, you don't have to pay for it. And I'm like, it's okay, I'm fine. And then you have a conversation with the seller, and sometimes they give you extra stuff. Last time I buy 1 papaya with my own bag, and the guy see that I buy it with my own bag, and the guy was like, "Oh, you're good to the environment. Here's another papaya for you." So it's something that you can do also easier. I think the last thing that is different is, of course, regulation. Indonesia have our own regulation, but it's not being implemented yet. This is something that we can push. This is something that we can do, because in the Netherlands there is regulation, and that's being implemented right now. So yeah.
So the next question is, does Zero Waste Indonesia accept clothes too?
What do you mean, clothes too?
They say, it says that you accept plastic and paper waste. So do you also accept clothes as in fashion waste?
Yeah, so with Zero Waste Indonesia, we don't process the waste ourselves. We have partners. So what we do is that we put the partners in the map, in the Peta Minim Sampah, which you can check also in the website, and then you can see which one that is around your area, and then you can distribute it directly to the partner that we have. So we don't process it ourselves. Doesn't matter, it is textile waste, of paper waste, or plastic waste. Check your bank sampah, the waste bank nearby your home, and then collaborate with them. Bring your trash, sorted trash, clean sorted trash there too. That's also possible, something that you can do. And with the clothes exchange, because right now it's pandemic, we don't do tukar baju yet, but we're hoping next year we can do another pop-up, not just in Java but all over Indonesia.
So the next question is from Risky. He is asking if which one you think is more effective, zero waste individual movements, or to push industries to have more sustainable ways for their products.
Both. We cannot do one thing or another. We have to do both. So we have to start from us, because we are the consumer. Producer sells stuff, producer produce stuff because there is a demand of the consumer. If the consumer said like, no, we don't want this stuff anymore, and then the producer changed it, or the other way around, the producer said like, we have a sustainable product, but then there's only small amount of people that are interested, then it doesn't work. So both things has to work together. Awareness of the consumers, of us as an individual, and then also awareness of the company to change their system into circular economy and to change their product that is easily sustainable and good for the environment.
Okay, so the next question is about how can we implement more sustainable ways of energy in Indonesia? How to push them to entire region?
Yeah. For example, at the moment, Germany, it's really amazing. They wanna close down all of the coal plantation. So PLTU in Germany will be closed down. 48 of them will be closed down completely because of the regulation. Because of the government said like, we don't want this. We want this. We want another way. You guys need to figure out how to do this. In the Netherlands, all of the businesses has to go circular economy by 2050. So regulation in combination with businesses that are focusing and would like to compromise, because businesses cannot go as business as usual anymore. With the climate issues and climate change right now, they need to change. So, and we need to push it. We as a people, we need to vote for it. We need to vote for the governor that are pushing this bill. We need to vote for people who are like, vote with your money also is a type of voting. Buying something sustainable is a type of voting with your money. That's something that we can do together. So yeah.
Okay, so there's another question, which is to share your experience at the UN Youth for Climate Change.
With the UN Youth for Climate Change is the experience is global experience. We're focusing on country regulation, on national determination contribution, implementation of Paris Agreement. I think you guys heard about the Paris Agreement, that every countries need to have their own plan how to employ to like net carbon or zero carbon by certain years. Sorry. So how my experience is really amazing. There's so many youth across the globe. They're interested to do something about trash, about anything, about human rights, about gender, about renewable energy. So if you would like to be part of them, find your niche, find what you really like, and then focus and thrive to that. For me, it's Action for Climate Empowerment. I'm really focusing on the empowering different kind of initiative across the globe to to implement the SDGs, to implement sustainable developmental goals, and also to implement the national determination contribution of that country itself. So yeah.
There's now another question from Henry, and he is asking that in where he lives, there's not really a bank sampah nearby, and when there was one, it didn't go well. What's your advice for this?
Try to live zero waste. Try to not producing the trash. And if you don't have bank sampah, create your own. Create your own bank sampah, and then try to sort your waste by yourself, with your own community. Usually in Indonesia, you have RT, RW, you have Karang Taruna, you have so many different organizations and community activities that can facilitate this also. So communicate with your local authorities and then say like, we would like to have bank sampah in here to collect the trash, and then later on you transport the bulk item to like bigger distributor or recycling center that probably in your area. Maybe Henry, you can let me know where is your area, and then I can check out if in our Peta Minim Sampah we have it there or not.
Another question is, what is your advice for the Indonesian young generation?
I think the Indonesian young generation is very social media based. We have voices, guys. We have power. We have voices. If you can reduce the amount of making memes and TikToks and like fun stuff that is not really educating, and then increasing the one that is actually sharing awareness, I think we can really create big changes. Okay, this is a funny example, right? If Om Tolelat Om can go to like Marshmallows DJs, they put it as their music in one night, we can create like Twitter, a viral thing there. We can even create so many different viral things if we work together towards sustainable future. So for Indonesian youth, find your niche, find something that you like to do, join a community that is already there, and start making contribution. I'm a little bit late. I'm not like in my early 20s right now. I'm in my late 20s right now, but I still feel that I'm a youth. So we can all do something about it. And for example, joining Green Welfare, joining Zero Waste in Indonesia, this is also another way for you to push on your initiative and on your idea. Because you're like, Indonesian youth is really impressive. It's really innovative, I think.
So that's all the time that we have for questions. Thank you so much, Camila. We really appreciate you coming here to educate the youth today. We very much appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Feel free to contact me later on also if you have more questions.
Okay. All right. So tuning down to the last and final session for the workshop, where we are going to have a very special guest from Arise Rose, a role model who always stands for the diversity of our Indonesian culture and is also incredibly talented. We will be having Ara from Arise Rose. Ara Winda Kirana is an 18-year-old artist. She co-founded Arise Rose, a platform that allows youths to discuss pressing world issues, including but not limited to racial injustices, feminism, mental health, education, and climate change. She is also currently studying at film school while working part-time as an actor, doing all this as well as advocating for Indonesian cultural arts through her creative work at Suara Gembira. Arawinda has worked closely with orphans and refugees, and since the age of 14 has published several light documentaries that display her work in rural areas of Indonesia. Today, to close up our webinar, we will be hearing how zero waste impacted Ara's life and her small journey to living a life without trash. Let's get ready to be inspired. Ara, you may start.
Thank you, Fiza. Hi, everyone. I'm Ara. I have a slide, so I'm going to start screen sharing. All right, can you guys see my screen? Okay. Hold on. Okay, can you see my screen? I hope you can. Okay.
Yeah, you can.
All right, thank you. Okay, so you see this. That's me. Hi, I'm Ara. I'm 18 years old and I love swimming, particularly in the ocean. Why? Because, well, I'm scared of pools. That's so weird, I know. But the ocean is a totally different case. The ocean has, I want to say, my friends in it. I have friends in the ocean. I have my manta rays, I have my dolphins, my cardinal fish, my flower crabs. And then there is also these little wonderful things called Christmas tree worms. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of that, but they're amazing. Go look them up. They look like Christmas trees, but they're worms. And then so many other colorful biodiversity that we are so blessed to have been given by the universe. Okay, so wait, look at all those beautiful vibrant fish that I failed to capture on my GoPro because I'm really bad at taking pictures. But yeah, I think to myself, God, how great would it be to live like a fish in the sea? But then I glance down and I see that their homes are completely gone, as you can see, and instead replaced by pieces of plastic stuck in between what remains of their home, rocks or bleached corals. If you can't really see the whole context of the picture, I apologize because for not capturing it right, because at the time we literally went on this trip for leisure and we expected to see beautiful, vibrant corals, but we saw this instead. If this is bad enough, if this state of the ocean is bad enough, can you imagine what it would be like if or when our oceans start to 100% look like this, you know, or like this? I mean, our rivers already look like this, you know, and I'm sure you've all seen these pictures. We've all seen these articles. I'm going to give you a little bit of time to scroll through these titles. You know, we've all seen these, and God, don't even get me started on this quote and how many god-awful times I've seen this quote. And I'm sure the most recent one, we've all seen this clock. But you know, that's it. These things just pass most people's timelines. And more often than not, they just grieve momentarily and then completely forget about it. And I know this because one of my closest people in my life have said that to me themselves. They showed me a picture of something related to climate change, and then they said, I'm so sad that all of this is happening. But then she just forgot about it immediately, you know? And then I started to think about the world that I was going to live in, just maybe 5 or 10 years from now. But more importantly, the world that I'm going to leave behind, the one that my children are going to live in the very, very far off future from now. I didn't want my sons to swim in an ooey gooey chemical-filled ocean, you know, a world where every time we get home from a beach trip, we would have sticky residue from all the trash and all the chemicals that are in the ocean. And then we'd get rashes the next day, you know, where the ocean is empty and there are no more cute fishes swimming around, you know. And I said to myself, are we really going to normalize life alongside trash? No, I don't think so. So with all of these in mind, I was able to identify why I wanted to choose a life without trash. So that is the first step out of 3 that I took towards living a zero waste lifestyle, which is why. But before we continue, I just wanted to say that I am here as an average, lazy 18-year-old youth who, just as many people in my age range, and especially in Jakarta, is self-centered, likes to party, and on top of that, I work in one of the most toxic, high waste producing industries ever, which is the film industry. So I am not here as a climate scientist or a big shot researcher of renewable energy like yesterday's speaker. No, I am not all of that, but I am here to share with you my personal journey as your average, bratty, relatable social teenager. Why and how I am trying to live a zero waste lifestyle. Note that, trying. Yes, I am still trying because there is no instant change, and I will get to that later. Anyways, step 1 is identifying why you want to live trash-free, whether it's to save the ocean from the ooey gooey chemical blobs of peril, like what I said earlier, or maybe it's to help out a wonderful local that you met during community service, and you can't help but grow empathy for them because you saw them literally living in trash, because there are actual people in Indonesia who live in landfill. Or maybe to save the earth from climate change altogether, or even small reasons, such as if you're just sick and grossed out of seeing how much product packaging you waste in a month or even a week. For me personally, it was a little bit of everything. I do a lot of work with Indonesian locals. If you want to see my documentaries, they're on my YouTube channel. I'll talk about that later. So I once stayed in this village called Argalingga for a week, and it was deemed, quote unquote, the ideal Indonesian village. But even so, it was covered in plastic packaging waste and just sacks of trash in every open space. If you guys can see my cursor, I am pointing at the areas where there are trash. So this is all filled with like sachets, I don't know how to pronounce it in English, ice cream packaging, and then it's also here as well, so much unsegregated waste. And if you're wondering, we did do a cleanup, and it was a very successful cleanup, which, as you can see in this picture, this road used to be filled with so much trash, and we cleaned all of it up together with the locals. Okay, but you know what? We don't even have to go that far. We don't even have to go that far because, for example, yesterday my partner and I were walking up to the grocery store, and as we were walking in the heart of Indonesia's capital city, we pointed out how absurd it was that people are still littering in 2020. It's very absurd. And aside from that, I get little tingles every time I see like a straw or those plastic wraps that restaurants use to wrap their utensils in, or boba plastic cups and their really, really useless plastic lids. And plastic bottles in specific really, really irritate me. So I just kept thinking about where they were going to end. Are they going to be burned, or are they going to be stacked up into this giant smelly mountain, you know? And so realizing that these simple things were bothering me became a turning point. Like, okay, I'm going to reduce as much of these nuisances as I can. Which leads to step 2, is how we're going to do it. First and foremost is through research, just light research. We have to familiarize ourselves with these terms at least. If my gut feeling and my natural human instincts were telling me that these things were bad, I'm sure there are some books or some things on the internet that can back them up. And so I learned about the things I mentioned previously. Plastic bottles. About 1 million plastic bottles are wasted per minute. And then plastic straws, 500 million per day. And single-use coffee cups or boba cups or whatever you want to call it, 2.7 million a day. Afterwards, I also discovered when we're talking about trash or waste, we are not only talking about plastic. See, that's the good thing about doing research, you know, you try to look for something else, but you also discover a side problem or a side issue or anything. So I discovered when we're talking about trash or waste, we are not only talking about plastic, but there's organic waste, food waste, and then the biggest waste of all is invisible waste, our carbon footprint. Okay, so just how much food waste is there? Okay, 80 billion each year. Okay, and what about carbon footprint? And these are the statistics we made over at our organization, Arise Arose. Sorry, it's in English and Indonesian because we're in a bilingual organization, but basically this is what it's like, the big picture. And I think my biggest revelation was learning and being shocked at just how many things that I thought were okay and normal actually produces so much carbon footprint. And that leads me to my next step, which is introspection and taking action. Okay, so through the very light research I had conducted, I was able to identify which of my personal habits were hazardous. And through the introspection, only then was I able to come up with solutions. My first example, through research, I had discovered that one of my most hazardous high carbon footprint producing habits, apparently, is consuming from corporate fashion chains like Zara, H&M, you know, those alike. And especially being an actor figure of sorts in Indonesia, part of my job description is to do product reviews, you know, endorsements. And so the solution was clear. I started shopping secondhand, you know, thrifting. I haven't bought anything from H&M in over a year or maybe 2 years. And shopping local actually also helps with reducing carbon footprint that is needed for international product transport. So if you shop local, you're going to minimize the amount of carbon that goes that is wasted when they transport the clothes from outside to here. But also, although I still have to be very selective towards the local products, because just because they're local does not mean that they're not fast fashion. Sorry, let me repeat that. Just because they're local does not mean that they're not fast fashion. So I would look into who makes these clothes and what materials do they use to make these clothes, you know, and how did these clothes get to me? How were they delivered to me? And how much water or gas was wasted during the production of these clothing items? And my second example was realizing that meat consumption is actually the biggest contributor towards carbon footprint. And so the solution was clear: become vegan. Now, I personally am not vegan. I'm still trying, but I try my best to reduce the amount of meat that I consume. Like I said, change doesn't happen instantly. What matters is that we are at least doing something to change, rather than just ignoring the issues at hand. But what's interesting enough is actually my 13-year-old brother, he has been vegan for a few months now. He's literally younger than me. But he's a true environmentalist at heart, and he spends all his seconds advocating for the earth through his very small platform. And I just find that so precious and so inspiring, and I look up to him, and I hope that someday I can be fully vegan like he is. So that just says something about all of this. If a 13-year-old little guy can do it. Anyone can, any one of you can. Okay, and then lastly, I looked up zero waste. Now I'm not gonna talk too much about the how and the technicality because Nila Patty already explained to us. So I looked up zero waste and I watched people. If you guys have ever researched zero waste, I'm pretty sure you have heard these names. I watched people like Bea Johnson and Lauren Singer. I think that's how you pronounce her back name. And I learned of this lifestyle to reduce physical waste. And I learned of the 5 R's, which is reduce, refuse, reuse, rot, and recycle. So I'm gonna tell you guys about my experience in each of these 5 R's. So the first one, reduce. I said earlier, I started shopping from corporate chains and started shopping local, but also I am actually shopping less. I am trying to reduce the amount of my shopping basically. And by shopping less, I find that we value more because we learn how to take care of our stuff better. So my mentality is no longer taking poor care of my shoes and immediately replacing them when they don't function anymore, but it's taking better care of my shoes so that I don't have to replace them or fixing them by myself, you know, like washing them by myself. And, you know, if there are any rips, I'll try to sew them myself. I like sewing. So this makes us so much more mindful and ethical. Sorry. And the second one is refuse. In my case, I have started refusing many unethical and unsustainable local brands that have asked me to endorse their products. I also refuse products they already have. For example, if I have a black tank top from one company, then I would refuse if another company would offer me the same thing, because why would we need the same things? Why would we need another thing that we already have, you know? Like that's the whole concept of zero waste. It's using what you already have and not being so consumptive, you know? And I actually wasn't always like this. I used to love to hoard stuff. I used to have like 7 same black tank tops and 3 same pair of jeans. That was a dark time in my life. And I noticed that now when I have fewer things, I am actually more content and I feel fresher and I feel a little bit cleaner because I don't have as much clutter as I usually did back then. Okay, the third one, reuse. I heavily reuse my items. Literally ask anyone. I always wear the same pair of jeans, the same tank top, the same outerwear. I always wear the same necklaces and everything. And on top of that, I always bring what I call my reusable kit everywhere, and it consists of 2 reusable silicone cups, a few plastic straws, and some reusable shopping bags, and then some produce bags for when I buy groceries in bulk. So that's for buying like fruits or like little nuts or seeds or anything, and so much more. And then we have rot, aka composting. So my brother, the 13-year-old prodigy, started a composting system over at our household, and we are still learning. And also we live in an apartment, so it's actually relatively a little bit harder than having a composting system at a normal household, which is not an apartment. So it's quite difficult, but what matters is that we're still trying. Okay, and then some other things that I would like to note in order to go zero waste or reduce your trash is making swaps, you know, like using sustainable product alternatives. For example, instead of using a plastic toothbrush, use a bamboo toothbrush with charcoal bristles, because all the plastic that has ever been made in this world is still here. So can you just imagine that one toothbrush you had when you were 5 years old, when you were 8 years old, is still somewhere here in this earth, whether it's floating on the oceans or whether it's become part of the soil in microplastic form. And then, yeah, so please switch to bamboo toothbrush. I've always been campaigning about bamboo toothbrush. And then maybe switching to natural handmade bar soaps and natural handmade shampoo bars. And this is not only reducing the plastic waste, but it's also reducing the amount of chemical waste that the artificial shampoos that goes to our drainage and then ends up in our oceans. And then reusable cotton pads, reusable menstrual pads for the ladies, and so many more wonderful things if you just do your research. Okay, then I want to note something that is so important for if any of you wants to start a more ethical life, or yeah, if you want to start living zero waste. Wait, by the way, I'm sorry if my screen is getting darker because the sun is going down. Okay, the first one is you are your own journey. So it doesn't matter how fast you progress or how slow you progress, or whether people are criticizing you for being too slow, or whether you're so insecure to start or you don't know how to start, because we are our own people and we have our own methods of going at this. So don't try to be Bea Johnson, don't try to be Gary, don't try to be Nila Patty, don't try to be me, but find your own method and compromise. And it's okay to start slow as long as you're doing something rather than not doing anything. I am still trying, so I am the example for this. And sorry, still on point number one. A lot of people ask me, hey, how do I impact people for starting to live zero waste, for starting to care about climate change and caring about all of these issues and everything when I'm a nobody, when I don't have a platform or a following or anything. And that honestly does not matter. It does not matter if you have 1,000 followers, if you have 10,000 followers, or if you have 1 million followers or any other platform, because once you start living zero waste, your surroundings will notice. For example, I always do this in cafes or restaurants. Whenever a waiter puts a straw in my drink, like automatically, I always stop them in their tracks and I talk to them a little bit about why I do not want this straw on my drink. And I tell them, sir or ma'am, please, next time when you are delivering a drink to a customer, please ask them beforehand whether they want a straw in their drink or not. And little things like that, I think, matters a lot, because the waiters or the managers of those restaurants will think like, why is she like this, and then sooner or later they're going to be more aware of it. And when I'm ordering from McDonald's or any takeout that is available, I would always write on the notes, please make this plastic free. I don't want any plastic straws or any plastic cutlery or anything like that. And that actually sends a message to the companies, because they acknowledge that there are these consumers that have these wants, and they're gonna put that inside their their system. They're going to consider that, and they're going to try to make policies for the companies that kind of accommodate that. So just by living zero waste, you are going to spark discussions. Like, people are going to talk about you. Maybe at first they're going to question, like, why is she shopping with a reusable bag? Why is she using silicone cups for boba or coffee or anything? And those discussions are sooner or later going to spark their awareness as well. So don't worry. And second, do not lie on the government yet. And why do I say this? Because the majority of the people that I have encountered in my life always rely on the government for everything I do. Fiza mentioned earlier that I am an advocate for cultural arts. And a lot of people comment on my social media saying, I hope the government makes a day where we have to wear batik, or I hope the government makes a day for zero plastic usage or anything. They always rely on the government. But I think if we rely on the government, then that's not going to spark change within ourselves. And I feel that if we start changing within ourselves, the government will see. So sometimes I get a block when I'm speaking in English. Okay, so don't rely on the government, because if you wait for the regulations to appear, then the change will not start with you and it will not be genuine. And later on, when you're doing it, you're just doing it because you feel like you have to, you must, because it's a regulation. And wouldn't it be so much better if you're doing all of these ethical things because it comes from your own awareness, from your own heart, you know? And with all of these zero waste movements and all of these people speaking up in social media, I'm sure that the government is watching. So if you do start from yourself, the government will be watching, and then sooner or later they will do something. But do not rely on the government yet, but rely on yourself first and foremost. Okay, I think that's it for my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ara, for sharing your journey and your story. Now we will move on to the question and answer session. So this is the first question. It is from Nila. She asked, ever since your brother started his veganism journey, how did your parents react to this? Did your parents resist or did they support this?
I hope my parents are not listening. They initially resisted, but I feel like that's normal because some people are just skeptical about, before doing research, people are very skeptical about how are you going to get your nutrients, how are you going to get your protein? But my brother and I tried to explain to them, and they slowly understand, although it's still a little bit rough. But we are trying to kind of help them and research more and tell them, oh, you can get your proteins from here and you can get your proteins from there. And my brother likes cooking for them as well, like cooking them vegan food and then buying them vegan food. And it was actually my brother's birthday last week, and we ordered vegan cake for them to try. So that's, yeah, so it's like that. It is a rocky road, but I think it's fine as long as we still have the will and the passion. Yeah.
Another question is that this girl, she said her friends still feel that using fast fashion is trendy and they use it to look cool because they actually bought the store's brand name. How to talk to them?
I feel like they're probably talking about branded stuff like Louis Vuitton and Gucci and Supreme and everything. Well, actually there's so many different kinds of people. Okay, the people that I'm surrounded with right now actually think that thrifting is the trend, and I don't know. I personally also do have friends who are very consumptive and very brand oriented, and in terms of how to talk to them, I try to talk to them, but in the end, if they do not try to open their hearts and listen to how much fast fashion actually impacts our earth and everything, I think at least I've done my part, and I've talked about it in my organization, and if people don't listen, at least I've done my part. I'm not going to stop trying, but at least I've done my part. Sometimes, I don't know, I really don't have an answer to this because I'm also really still struggling with this. I still struggle with so much backlash and so much criticism for this. And just don't give up. And I think what you're doing is a really, really good and ethical thing. So thank you for doing that.
On the topic of thrifting, what are your favorite secondhand shops?
Oh my gosh, I have so many. Wait, okay. If I fail to mention some, please do message me on my Instagram. My Instagram is my name, Arawinda, with a K in the back, so it's Arawindak. Let's just write it down here. For thrift shops. Okay, but these are Indonesian based. Is that okay?
Yes, any are okay.
Oh, okay. So my first, there's this online store called You Poppin on Instagram. They have really, really cool clothes, cool photography, very great quality. Actually, the pants I'm wearing now is actually thrifted from there. It's from You Poppin. So, and then you can find thrift stores in Jakarta at. I actually do most of my thrift shopping online. See, so there's a list. I actually have a list of secondhand clothing shops. If you guys want, please just DM me, because I can't remember them all and I can't mention them all. So just DM me.
Another question is about what do you think about plastic waste, clothes or shoes?
What do I think about plastic waste, clothes or shoes?
Yes, about what do you think about sustainability and how can we avoid them?
Oh, okay, so wait, can I turn on my lights? It's very dark. Okay, so with the plastic and the textile waste that I have, I actually, I don't think that anyone can live 100% zero waste. I think Nila Patty also said this, because yeah, no one can live completely zero waste, because there are still things that you like that you will produce, like even, yeah. So with the plastic waste and the textile waste that I have, I actually do waste segregation. So what that is there is this company called Waste for Change, and they have this waste segregation program where you can send in your waste and they will, sorry, I was distracted by the person writing on the Zoom thing. And they will segregate. They will segregate the waste, and they will give it to companies or recycle it, and recycle it anyways. So they accept like plastic bottles, plastic sachets, and any other plastic or paper or cardboard waste or glass or styrofoam or anything. And that's what I do with my waste. I do waste segregation. So I just send it to them rather than sending it to landfill, and they're going to recycle it. As for my textile waste, I've actually been, for the past 2 months, for the past 3 months, I've been accumulating me and my brother's textile waste, and we either give them to orphanages. We give them to orphanages, or we send them to the villages, or this is actually a spoiler for my organization, Arise Rose. We're actually planning to make merchandise, and we are planning to use textile waste as our material to create a product with that. So there's actually a lot of things that you can do with your plastic and textile waste. You need to just be creative with it.
So another question is about how the local government has now implemented the no plastic rule. And what do you think about it? Is this enough for sustainability, or is there more to be done?
The local government, as in Jakarta government, I still think that it's, I'm still quite disappointed, because I still see a lot of stores and restaurants that are using plastic bags. And I just think that this rule, I know it's easier said than done, but I still think that this rule is not entirely, it's not inclusive of the smaller stores like warung or anything. It's just, yes, it's working on the bigger restaurants, but there are still so many smaller restaurants that are still using plastic. And I actually just went to one last week. I will not disclose the name, but this restaurant is still using plastic bag. But it's so great that our government is finally taking the step after so many years of not doing it. And but it's actually quite sad as well that the thing that triggered the government to make this policy is because of a flood that we experienced in New Year's. And I just wish that moving forward, our government will be so much more awake and so much and implement more mitigation policies rather than just waiting for something bad to happen and then making the policies. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, that's it.
Okay. Another question is about if you know any organizations or websites that focus on electronic trash, or do you know yourself ways to manage it?
Oh, okay. So for electronic trash, I have no knowledge of any online organizations, but we have an electronic trash waste bank near our apartment. So we have it near our local farmers, near the farmers market. So if we do have any e-waste, we just put it there. So I'm sorry, I cannot give you information on any organizations, but I will try to research it, and then you can contact me, and then I'll tell you, or maybe just do your own research, you know.
So I think that's all the time we have for questions. Thank you so much. We really appreciate you speaking today.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Fiza. Unfortunately, this is the end of Green Welfare's first educational workshop. I'd like to thank all the speakers for being here today, and so many new. This workshop has inspired you guys to be a bit more compassionate about Mother Nature. And to close off our workshop, I'd like to say thank you so much to the participants and to all the speakers who gave amazing presentations. Thank you all, and good night, everyone.
All right, thank you guys so much. If we're gonna have a little screen capturing, so turn on your cameras, and I would take the slide. I would take screen captures one by one. All right. Okay, so the first slide. Now, second, third. All right, fourth, fifth. Wow, there's a long list. It's amazing. Sixth and seventh. Oh, last one. All right, thank you guys so much. We're gonna see you guys in the next event of Green Welfare. Feel free to unmute yourselves to say thank you to our speakers for being here today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
So much.
Thank you.